We would never allow a mechanic to hand us a sticker and tell us to just put it right over our check engine light, right? That check engine light there is a warning. We know that for our cars, but oftentimes for our bodies, we don't do that.
Yeah. Now I know, and God knows, I was not going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, it just was not going to happen. And if I'm praying all the time, like, God, less of me, more of you, allow me to be in alignment with what your will is for my life. And when those desires come, we got to know that it's okay to chase them. It's okay to do what we need to do for them. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mommy Mogul Mastery Podcast. I am so excited to have my very special guest here, Dr. Alicia Newsome. So welcome. Dr. Alicia, tell me and everybody else who's listening a little bit about what it is that you do and how you serve people.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Dr. Alicia Newsome. And really, the women that come to me, they are struggling with low energy, exhaustion, trouble losing weight. Oftentimes, they may have painful or irregular periods. So think fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, those types of things, or they're kind of in that transition period, that perimenopause, postmenopausal space right there. So they're really struggling with what these things going on in their health. And what I do is I help them find out exactly what's going on in their body. A lot of times they may have been to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh, everything's normal. We ran all the tests, Right. And I find that's not the case, So for me, we run advanced lab tests, which is very different and very specific to what they're dealing with. So we find out exactly what's going on. So test, don't guess. And then we work with women in customized protocol. We create customized protocols and programs for women to help them basically resolve those issues so they can feel like themselves again, feel good in their skin, be able to get more done in less time, and really be able to focus on the things in life that matter to them, their kids, their family, their work, all of those types of things, and not have their health holding them back.
Yeah. Now you said something really important. You said help them get more done in less time. And I am always amazed every time I talk to you about how many things you're able to balance in your daily life. So tell me exactly what that could look like for someone.
Well, I think for me, I'm a little biased, so health is going to be really important for that. Being able to wake up and have energy is really important. When we wake up, our cortisol levels should go up and we feel good. It wakes us up, and then within 30 minutes, those levels go up further. So then we have more energy to start our day and, get going with things without coffee, without tea, without any kind of stimulants. So really having that mental clarity to be able to get things done is really, really important. So that's one thing, having health in order, but then also having systems in place, whether that's systems like when stressful events come up, like how am I managing that inside of myself? Like when I get triggered, I'm really aware of most of the time, that I'm being triggered, and to be able to navigate that, because that can sometimes just completely knock us off, when something happens and then we're just overwhelmed with frustration or stress or anger, that can really disrupt our day. The other thing is just logistically, organizational wise, I have my week planned out, but then I also look at my calendar and my to-do list, and I ask myself the question, where can I ask for help today? And that it used to be a much more difficult question to ask myself, because I can get it all done, right? I don't actually need anybody else's help. So I think, but we were really designed to be in community and to really have the support of other people and not do things on our own. So delegation is a really big thing. And it's something I even teach my clients to do in our program. So delegating with confidence and then asking for support. Because sometimes some people aren't people we can necessarily delegate to, but they're people that we can ask for help and they'll show up for us and they'll support us. So I think that's, those are the two biggest things or I guess that's three things, is my health, how I manage stress, and then also asking for support and delegating, which also helps with stress too when we have less on our plate to do that we personally have to do.
Yeah. So have you found that, because that delegating thing, I'm like, that sounds great, but I can do all the things, but I also, should not do all the things. So have you found that, like, in working with your clients, is that something that can be challenging for them to, like, actually delegate? Is that hard?
Oh, yes. So, and I find that as coaches and creators, we tend to attract people that are like us, you know? So most of my clients are very high achieving, driven women. Okay. And we know how to get things done. And it's really like tapping into the parts of us that don't trust others to get things done, you know?
Ooh, yeah.
So it's really, tapping into that fear that might be surrounding that, maybe some past trauma, you know, and trauma doesn't always have to be big things, you know, big dramatic things. They can sometimes be small things that have caused us to distrust others, or where we might feel like I'm all alone. You know, I always got to do things by myself, you know? Yeah. So when we hear clients say that, okay, let's look and let's see, where's that coming from, you know? And is that coming from a 15-year-old girl or a 17-year-old girl who maybe did have to take on too much and do everything all by herself, you know? But now we're like, okay, I'm 40, I'm 45, I'm 50, you know, like this version of myself is very resourceful. I know how to answer questions or ask questions, you know, I know how to do things. And really it's being able to ask for help or to delegate with confidence from that centered place, not that the scared girl or the one who is like, okay, I life is something I got to do on my own. You know, we've really got to get like, no, okay, there are people like the truth, and I call it the center of truth. So a lot of times I won't make big moves without making sure that I'm centered in my truth.
Yeah. So that leads me to want to ask more about what exactly functional medicine is, because it sounds like you do a lot more than just assess people's individual hormones and how they're impacting them. It seems like there's a lot of mindset work and all of that. So maybe explain, what exactly is functional medicine?
So I'd like to give the example of, let's say that the check engine light comes on in your car, right? So check engine light comes on in your car. You're like, okay, I've got to take my car to the mechanic. You take the car to the mechanic, and imagine you get there, you tell the mechanic, my check engine light came on the other day. I was hearing a noise in the engine. And the mechanic's like, okay, I got this. And then the mechanic goes inside, comes back out, and then brings you a sticker. I wish I had one here to show you. I've got a thing of stickers, but came out and gave you a sticker and said, take this sticker here and put that right over that check engine light. And you won't have to worry about that thing anymore. That would be crazy. Okay. Yeah. We would never allow a mechanic to hand us a sticker and tell us to just put it right over our check engine light, right? That check engine light there is a warning. It's a sign that something's going on inside of our vehicle and we need help. We need proper diagnostic tests run. Someone's got to look under the hood, see what's going on, right? And we know that for our cars, but oftentimes for our bodies, we don't do that. We go to the doctor. They may or may not run tests. If they do, sometimes they come back and they're like, yeah, everything's normal. Or you may walk out with a prescription, you know, which is like that sticker, you know, it's just covering the symptoms. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we have a headache, that's our body's sign something's off, right? It's not because our body's lacking Tylenol or Advil or Motrin, right? We don't have a deficiency in Advil, you know? So it's actually just covering up the symptom. Yeah, it helps with pain, but it's not helping with the root cause, the reason why we have the pain in the first place. So when it comes to women who are struggling with exhaustion or brain fog or trouble losing weight or irregular periods, what I do is I'm looking under the hood. Okay. I'm running the right diagnostic test. And we're not even like at this point diagnosing per se, because a diagnosis is just basically a group of symptoms that have been grouped together so that now doctors can bill insurance and give you a drug. Okay. So that's one thing with functional medicine, is that we don't give drugs. Okay. We're looking at the root cause and we're addressing things without drugs or surgery. And we're looking at the underlying causes of why these symptoms are popping up for you. Okay. Why is that check engine light on? You know, why is that ache in the low back happening? You know, why are those periods painful? And getting to the root cause of those issues versus just telling you to get on birth control or take some pain medication or, you know, take some vitamins for your energy or drink some coffee.
Yeah. And so it sounds like hormones have a lot to do with some of the things that we are facing. Could you like narrow that down to a percentage of like what might be going on in our bodies? How much of that has to do with our hormones?
Well, my answer is going to be biased on here because that's what I do is hormones. Yeah. You know, like that is the area the women that are coming to me are struggling with hormonal imbalances. So it's always a big percentage. But even hormonal imbalances are a symptom in and of themselves. Okay. So when our hormones are out of whack, when estrogen's too high, for instance, fibroids, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, all of those are estrogen dominant diseases, meaning that the estrogen is super high, higher than it needs to be. And often that is in relationship to progesterone. Okay. But that's a symptom too. We want to get to the root cause of why estrogen is so high. That can be high because estrogen is being reabsorbed in the gut. So there could be something going on in your gut. So for instance, estrogen goes up at the beginning of the month and then it comes back down. Well, when it comes back down, it needs to be able to leave the body. And one of the ways that it leaves the body is through your bowels. So if there's an issue with your gut, it can actually be reabsorbed in the bloodstream. Now you have all this excess estrogen in your system. It can be high because testosterone is converting to estrogen. So that's no fun for when it comes to motivation, when it comes to muscle building, sex, libido, all of those things. When our testosterone, that's lowering and then being turned into estrogen. Yeah. It could be how the liver is metabolizing that estrogen. So metabolizing means like, how is it using it? And then again, it has to be excreted. So the body has to be able to get rid of it. So it's not metabolizing it properly, then that can create an issue. So there's a host of issues. There's several underlying causes of why estrogen may be high. So even hormonal imbalances aren't necessarily like the thing. It's all the things that cause the hormonal imbalances. Gotcha.
So you're able to help people fixing all of these issues all over the world, right? Because right now you're working globally. And you do it right from home. So walk me through what that's like, because I might feel like, well, I have to traditionally go to a doctor and they have to do all the things. So tell me, how does that work?
Yes. So yes, I work with people all over the world. And because of the way our world is so virtual now, it makes it a whole lot easier. And basically what happens is there's a few ways to work with me. So I'll give you more of like the traditional way. There's book a consultation. Okay. So you book a consultation and with me, it's 90 minutes. So this isn't like a quick, you're with your doctor 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes and, quick, give me some information and then I spit something out. This is 90 minutes where you've already built out very comprehensive forms beforehand. I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at like, tell me, I want to know about your dental work. I want to know about like where you grew up. Did you grow up by power lines or a golf course? Not many people did grow up by a golf course, but if they did, there's a lot of pesticides and things that are sprayed on that to keep that grass really pretty. But I'm asking about everything and all of your symptoms. And when we get on the call, I want to know about your story. I want to know how this has been impacting you. A lot of women really, it impacts their life in that they stop taking pictures, don't feel good in their skin anymore, don't want to be seen. It affects their work because they're doing the work they've got to do to pay the bills, getting through their day, but then at the end of the day, don't have energy for their children, Or maybe they're wanting to start another business, but they don't really have the focus and the ability to do that, So it's really impacting their lives. Their relationships can be impacted. If sex drive is an issue too, they may have a wonderful husband or maybe not a good husband, but, where they just have no interest at all, and feel like things are off in their bodies now. So we really talk about all of those things and their goals and their desires, because my desire is not just to get you well, but to get you to be well and to stay well and have sustainable results that they can keep for a long time. And so that they can reach other goals that they have, create businesses, feel good. Some people want to get back to running, or they just want to be able to go out for a long walk or swim, Doing those things are really important. So we talk about all of those things. I do a root cause analysis from that work, that all those worksheets that I have them fill out, and we look at the root cause. Typically from there, we're going to move into lab work. So lab work's really important. I'm a big advocate of test, don't guess. Okay. We've got the science, the advanced lab work out there where we can really get detailed information about what's going on. So typically there's functional blood work that I do that looks much more comprehensively than what you would get at a well visit, or even if you're going to a specialist. Thyroid, for instance, a lot of times they just look at TSH, and that hormone is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's actually not a thyroid hormone. It's made in the brain by the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is telling the thyroid to make T4. Well, T4 needs to be converted to T3, okay? And that happens in the gut and liver, okay? So oftentimes they're prescribing medication based on TSH, which is going to go up and down based on what's happening with these other hormones that they're not even looking at, Right. So we've got to look at all of them to see what's really going on with someone. And when it comes to sex hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, those change throughout the month. So as a woman, estrogen's going up, it comes back down. Then progesterone, the hormone that helps you get pregnant and stay pregnant, goes up and should stay up until your period comes. Well, I got to see what that looks like throughout the month. If you just came in and I tested you that one day, I only have that information for one day. So we're able to see what's going on throughout the month with a woman's cycle and how her hormones are fluctuating, how they're metabolizing. That's something that you see in the urine. So it's not done in the blood. And that's, like I said, like liver could be an issue. How's it metabolizing? How's it moving out in the body through phase 1, phase 2 detoxification? So we're able to see all of this information. And then we run the labs, those are the two main labs that I highly recommend. If there's gut issues, we can look at that. If there is toxins as a concern, mold, which produces its own toxins, mycotoxins, environmental toxins, heavy metals, we can look at that. Food sensitivities, genetics, there's various things. So depending on what's going on with the person, we run the lab work. And then when it comes back, then we have, usually it's 90 minutes to 2 hours. We sit down and we really look at things, because my job as a doctor means teacher. So I'm not here to just spew out things that you don't understand. I want to make sure that you understand, and you can look at your own labs and really be able to tell someone else, like you understand it to that level because it's your body. And my goal is for you to really understand. So we go over all of that. And then from there, most women choose to continue working with us on an ongoing basis. So we set up very customized programs for them that's very specific to their lab work and what came back in the results. So they work with me one-on-one, as well as they have a support and accountability coach. So my goal is for you to really, and we find most women, they don't know where to start, and they need accountability too. Yeah. So, and I need accountability in my life too. So I make sure that my clients have it, where someone's checking in on you, and not just making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but that's there to celebrate you and is there to encourage you. And then there's times, that you may not do the things for that week. We're there to, keep you going and help you with that momentum. So we do that. That's a traditional way. What I have coming out is something called the Hormone Compass program that has taken all of my protocols, all of my trainings, and really made it in bite-sized information so that you can learn it and then do the things that go along with it. So it's a way that it's very similar to what I just discussed, but not so many steps. Now we just get to dive into the lab work and then start moving into the program, and you still get all your customized protocols. Starter supplements come with that. There's a bunch of bonuses. You get a whole journal that I've created and stickers. You get all kinds of stuff shipped to your home that makes it very interactive and fun for you too, because we want those dopamine hits. Okay. We want those things that feel good, that keep us going. So it's a new program that I've designed, and it's made for the woman who, some women that I give information to, they take it, they can run with it, and they're like, I got this, Dr. Alicia, I'm good. And some need more or hand holding, which is fine. That's perfect, because that's what we've designed it for, to be like week by week. This is the new thing, because my goal is for you to have sustainable new habits when it comes to your nutrition, when it comes to your stress levels. That's a really big part of my program. When it comes to detoxification, your lifestyle, your sleep, all of those types of things. It's all like step by step, and we're there to guide you along the way the entire time.
And one of the things that I'm hearing is, not only are you really, really, really educated on what it is that you do and how you serve people, but also I can hear the compassion and that you really care. Like when you say, I want this to be sustainable, I can tell that you mean that. So I really hope that the listeners who are paying attention are saying, yeah, if I'm feeling any of these things, I want to work with her. One of the things you told me a time that like really just blew me back was that I have an addiction to sugar. And you said, oh, well, there's like certain bacteria that causes that. And I was like, oh, what? It's like my body's fighting against me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just so many little things that we don't know about our body and how our bodies work. And so that you're taking the time not only to walk them through, the labs, it's hyper personalized, because you want to know their story. You want to know, well, how did we get here? What are your goals? Life goals, not just like health wise, but how can your health set you on the trajectory to get what it is that you really want out of life? And that's so important, especially you said for like high achieving, high functioning entrepreneurs, and especially women. So I think that's amazing what you're doing. And I really commend you, and I appreciate you for being here, doing all of that.
Oh, thank you.
That is amazing. Simply amazing. So you talked a little bit about the Hormone Compass, the program that you have coming out. So we will leave information in the description box below. If you are listening on a podcast, we'll put everything in the show notes so that you can reach out to Dr. Alicia and sign up for that, because that sounds really amazing. I want to talk a little bit about, how is it that you personally are balancing this journey of helping women and really showing up for them, but also really showing up for yourself too, because that takes a lot out of you to pour into other people. So how are you keeping your cup full?
I think the main way that I keep my cup full is having healthy relationships around me. I've had a life full of unhealthy relationships, but really making sure that I'm connected spiritually to God, that I am taking the time to really tune in and hear from God, and just make sure that connection is intact. Because when it's not, I'm a mess. Okay. I am no good for anyone.
Same here.
Okay. So that's really important. And it's so easy to just kind of like quickly throw that aside sometimes, whether it's your prayer time or your meditation time, or, whatever practice that you have, or doing, devotions. It's sometimes easy to like get up and just start your day, but it's really being mindful and changing my habits of the first thing that I grab in the morning. So I will confess, I have a bad habit, and I have to be mindful to not fall back into this, is that I will wake up and I grab this phone, and that phone has notifications waiting for me, especially because I
please me.
Yes. I
for those dopamine hits.
Yes. And so it's almost like you got to replace those dopamine hits with something more positive. But yeah, it's easy to just start my day like checking my email and getting on social media and doing all of that, and none of that actually leaves me ever feeling too good. Right. I don't get on social media, like scroll Facebook or Instagram. I usually don't leave like, oh, that was so good. Like, oh, I can't wait till I do that again. Like, it's something else that has us doing that so often,
Yeah.
So I have to be mindful. So what I do, especially when I notice, I'm falling back into that habit, is that I will put my phone across the room plugged up or underneath my bed. There's a wonderful book that I love called Atomic Habits, and it's by James Clear, and it talks about building habits, so building powerful habits, and then also breaking bad habits too. And one of the techniques that he recommends in there is creating space between you and the bad habit, okay? So in my case, my habit would be like I wake up, I open my eyes, and I roll over. Bad habit is I grab my phone, okay?
Yeah.
So if I move that phone away, it can't be like the first thing that I do. I would have to like get out of bed and, grab my phone somewhere else underneath the bed or across the room. And instead, what I do is I take my planner, which is like a journal. And I've actually created this in the Hormone Compass program for my clients. So they have the same thing personally designed by me. And for them, but it's my way to be able to, okay, and this isn't like about planning my to-do list, but it's about doing my morning routines of prayer or gratitude and really focusing myself for the day. That can be the first thing that I do. And what I'll even do, because sometimes I have to use the bathroom when I wake up, I just, as long as this is my hand and it's not my phone, I still grab it and I'll take it with me, let's run to the bathroom. But then I'm like, okay. So it's like building those new habits and not following back into those. And that's why I feel like accountability is so important. Like myself, I need accountability. I have some of my friends joke with me. I have coaches for days for everything. I got relationship coaches. I got health coaches. I've got social media coaches. I've got people that know, like, that are steps ahead of me and have been where I am and are helping to lead and guide me. So having that wise counsel, I guess, to go back to your question, is really important. And just navigating life as a mom and an entrepreneur and a wife, because that helps us save time and not waste energy doing things that are not going to work. Waste time, energy, and money doing things that aren't going to work. So that's helpful, having those things in place. So outsourcing is really important. So even, Shani here, she didn't ask me to say this, but she's my podcast manager. I would not be able to do that without her. I wouldn't be able to do all the little things. And sometimes it's just much better to have people that are working in their giftings, because yes, I could probably figure out how to post things or edit videos or create graphics or all the wonderful things that she does, or she does all the show notes, she figures out the SEO for what's going to be best. I could make my way through all of that. But one, it's not my gifting, so it's not the best use of my time or energy, or am I walking in the purpose God has for me? That's not it, but allowing someone else to come in and support, whether that's asking or outsourcing or delegating, that's a big part of that. So hiring people that can really help me do the things that need to get done, whether it's in my business or in my home is a big one.
Yeah. But there was something that you mentioned, having coaches for days, right? And how that has really shifted and helped you so much in not only life, but your business and all of that. And I think it's important for people to know where their strengths are not, and that it's okay to ask for help. And you also talked about this in the beginning of the show, and just really learning to delegate. And it can be challenging for people to know when to ask for help, but it is so crucial. And I think it's important to consider it as part of your health journey, is being able to ask for help. Not only, for me specifically, I'm learning to trust myself again, because I have lied to myself so much about what for months, I had it on my calendar that every morning I was going to go to the gym. Now I know, and God knows, I was not going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. It just was not going to happen. I could have set that at a more appropriate time so that I could go, but I lied to myself. So now sometimes I find that I'm struggling to trust my own word. And I don't know if there's anybody else who's listening who's ever done that. You have the best of intentions, but just not following through and not being able to trust ourselves. So my point to that is that I really feel like it's a holistic journey, and we really have to look at the whole picture. Not only are we just talking about health here, but like we're talking mental health too, and how do we really make all of that fit into our journey, because we need it. We really do. We really need it. Question. What was I going to ask? I don't know. You said so many good things. And we talked about sugar. I was like, I'm telling you, that really just blew me away there, that whole sugar part. And thank you so much for your kind words about, how I help you with your podcast. I personally love your podcast. So if anyone listening to my podcast, like, go listen to hers, because it's so good. And one of the things you say in every single episode that like always just makes me breathe is the desires, right? And we've talked about this, that God does not put desires on your heart just to tease you.
Yeah.
And that, like, every time it really resets me when I'm listening to your episodes, because it helps me to breathe. Like, that's so true. God is not trying to mess with my head. Like,
he is not playing mind games.
Right.
And heart games.
Confusion. And he did not put this here just to tease me. Like, he really wants me to have this thing. And if I'm praying all the time, like, God, less of me, more of you, allow me to be in alignment with what your will is for my life. Then when those desires come, we got to know that it's okay to chase them. It's okay to do what we need to do for them. So
it's that alignment piece.
Yeah.
It made me think of, even with the 5 a.m., you put that on your calendar, but like, was that in alignment? Like, were you like, oh yes, 5 a.m. Like, I want to work out, sometimes we have to listen. Like, is the thought of this even bringing me joy? Versus it may be more simple as like, just after dinner, I'm going to go for a walk, that can be like, that feels a little like, okay, that's doable, versus this like, who said we got to get up and work out first thing in the morning? And
I'm watching all like the millionaires, and they're like talking about their morning routines. But the reality is, I'm a night owl. I flourish at nighttime. So I could be up till like 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I have to make myself go to bed, and my mind is just going, and I'm clicking, but then I feel guilty because the next day I want to sleep till like 8, 9 a.m. I'm sorry. I just do. Like, I don't even take appointments before 10 because I'm like, that's not happening. But I want to, sleep. I want to sleep in a little later. And then I feel like, oh my God, the whole world is up doing all the things. And here I am sleeping. Well, the whole world was sleeping when I was up at 3 a.m.
True. And know that when you're getting up at 8 a.m. your time, Dr. Alicia is still asleep. And when you've started your day at 11 a.m., she might still be asleep too. Yeah. So I think it's like honoring your body, like it wouldn't even make sense. Like, maybe at some point, like, things shift for you, but like right now, going to bed at 3 a.m. and then getting up at 5 a.m. is not, that's a no-go. That's not even good on your mental well-being or your body. That's super stressful. So it's like those little shifts that are better, to move things around, and not feeling like the shame that goes along with it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, if I'm going to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I homeschool my girls. So our homeschooling day starts at 9 a.m. There's no like, then I'm waking up at 5, going to the gym, coming back home to go to sleep. There's not like a consistent sleep. Have I even hit my REM cycle? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I'm gonna do all the things, but it's not realistic.
And a lot of times, like, all the things are just like, the thing is about the internet right now, and I always call it Dr. Google. Okay, like, people go to Dr. Google or whatever influencer, and it's just like all of this information that's really created for the masses. It's not individualized for like what's going on with that person, their lifestyle, what they need right now. So even I had a client, she came in, she's doing all the right things, or all the things, right? She's like intermittent fasting. She has like a perfect diet, all of this stuff, and she could not lose weight at all. And she's following even some of my friends that are big time gurus, like she's like, them? I'm like, yes. And she's like following all their things, but it wasn't the right thing for her to do in that season of her life. And I had her stop a lot of those things, and the weight just came off. We didn't change, like do anything drastic with her diet or anything. I literally had her stop doing the things because they were too stressful on our body. And when we're stressed, we can't lose weight. And that's because your stress hormones they're fight or flight. Okay. So when you're in a stress state, your body's in a sympathetic nervous system. Okay. So fight or flight, think about if a bear is coming after you, you're going to fight or you're going to run away. Okay. You're going to figure out how to get out of there. So your body is not in a rest state if it's in this fight or flight state. So it's not going to be thinking about losing weight. It's not going to be thinking about getting pregnant. And even for like my clients that have no desire to get pregnant, they still want regular cycles, right? Yeah. Like they don't want painful, heavy periods or periods that are erratic. They don't know when they're going to show up. But all of those systems start to shut down because if you're in a survival mode, that's the last thing your body's thinking about is making a baby. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of those things it's going to start holding on to fat because it's thinking, okay, we might need this storage for later. We don't know what's going on. So remember the commercials, they would say like cortisol equals belly fat. It was like for a pill or something.
I do remember that.
But that's true. Like that's a stressed belly, everything that's there. And there's ways that we help women. We do a lot of things to learn, techniques to learn to decrease stress. But there's also things that we do with targeted supplementation to reset those cortisol patterns too. So I kind of went off on a tangent there. I don't know.
Okay, but I have a question though. So explain the targeted what supplements. What is that exactly?
So that's another important thing. So a lot of times people go to Dr. Google, people come into me and they're like, I'm taking ashwagandha, I'm taking B12, vitamin D, calcium, they're like, I've got a multivitamin. Like all of those things they're good. They're good things in and of themselves. But if it's not what your body needs at that time, then we actually need to do like targeted supplementation that's very specific to what you need according to your lab work. So when it comes to cortisol levels, what we do is we reset those patterns. So what we want to see is cortisol go up, and then throughout the day, it should go down, all the way down. And then it should go down at night so that you can easily go to sleep. So I would have to see your lab work, but I would probably be, I can confidently say that your cortisol levels are probably popping up at night when they should be going down.
Yeah.
So then that's causing this burst of energy and you're like, okay, I've got let's do it. Like I am up and ready to go. So what we do is we reset those cortisol patterns for people. And there's very specific supplements that we use. Some of them are bioidenticals, and then some of them have glandulars in them, different types of supplements that help reset those. So it's helping that brain-body communication reset so that those cortisol patterns actually do what they need to do.
Wow. I love it. It is so important. My body is honestly one of the things that I really take for granted. That is going to keep me going. And one of the things I've noticed is like underneath my eyes have gotten so dark. And of course my dad, he's check your blood pressure, right? I'm like, oh my God. And I hate doing that because every time I check my blood pressure and it's elevated, now he wants me to go eat a whole bunch of garlic or go to the doctor and do all different like home remedies. But I really do take my body for granted because I don't understand it. And so I think it's very important for people to, especially women, like I am a woman, so I can only speak from a woman's perspective and worry about yourself. But, I think it is important for us to understand our bodies and why they're doing certain things and why we're reacting to things in a certain way. And so I definitely, for one, will be more intentional about how I treat my body and because I'm one of those people. I'm eating all those vitamins. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do cod liver oil. It's Auntie Tabitha. They got me taking that ashwagandha because she said it worked for her and Chance. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have a chance in my life right now, but
and it's always like those things, like it will work for some person because that's the specific thing that they needed, and maybe even it's a lot of times a combination of things that people are needing. But Yeah, that supplement world. I love some supplements, but I love supplements done right. And I like high quality supplements, because here's the other thing is that it's an unregulated industry.
Really?
Which, it's
did not know that.
And it can, not everything regulated's good either. you know, I have that's a whole nother can of worms with, what I was doing before launching this virtual practice was I had worked on a lot of high profile clinical trials for endometriosis, fibroids, breast cancer, some other cancers, and then also things around the vaccines for COVID and all of that. So I've been on the inside of the pharmaceutical industry, what the trials, all of that looks like, safety information. So that's a regulated industry. And I'm going to say that the majority of the trials that I've worked on, they've gotten FDA approval. Some have, some haven't. A lot of people in their career never even work on any trials that get FDA approval. So I've worked on 5 of them that have. Wow. And I say that to say this, that, things get recalled, and it's definitely, an industry where we're covering up symptoms, even with the fibroids and endometriosis, the drug trial that I was working on basically is like blocking the body from producing estrogen, right? Because we know estrogen's the issue. So the drug blocks the estrogen, and then women actually need an add back. They need estrogen added back in because you need estrogen for your bones and all of these things. So we were doing all these DEXA scans on women to see what was happening with their bone density. But then, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, why don't we just deal with the root cause of why estrogen's high, right?
Right.
So that side note. But I say that to say not everything that just because it's been approved doesn't mean it won't be, class action lawsuits, and I'm not saying that all about any of the ones that I've worked on, but I'm just saying in general. So the supplement industry is not regulated, which has its pros and cons as well, because if it was regulated, we may not be able to get the good supplements to people that people actually need, because it's very, very, very expensive to run clinical trials. Millions and billions of dollars go into it. And most supplement companies would not be able to, handle that. But my point is that, let's say calcium. You go to the grocery store or Whole Foods or wherever, and you pick up a supplement and it has calcium in it. Well, sometimes that calcium comes from rocks, and there is calcium in rocks, right? We know this, but we don't eat rocks.
Right.
We eat food. So it's really important that the supplements that we take, our body can actually absorb. So that's something that I do with my clients in creating really comprehensive protocols for them. I am a supplement snob, like making sure that people are taking really good, high quality supplements based on what's going on with their labs. Cause like you said, it's like, well, it worked for them. Maybe it will work for me, and it may work for them and it may not work, for someone else based on what's going on with them.
Is it your your background and your work background that has led you to do functional medicine and open this virtual practice? Like, how did that even come about?
So for me, with launching this practice, basically it started with one night I was in a lot of pain. And I went to the bathroom and I was bleeding and I was bleeding and I was bleeding. And at the time I was having a miscarriage. The baby would have been 17 weeks. So I'm passing the placenta and all of these things. And I didn't realize, what was happening. Yeah. And, I realized, but I didn't,
Right, yeah.
I was in a lot of pain. Yeah. Well, I had recently found out that there wasn't a heartbeat. So I knew I was going to pass, and I wanted to pass things naturally. But my friends that had miscarriages was like, oh yeah, you're going to pass it. You'll feel a little pain. It's fine. But I was much further along. So, what was coming out of me, the placenta was, or the birth tissue, it was a lot, and it was the same feeling like once everything finally passed, because I just kept bleeding, I kept passing all this tissue. And I'm like, what is going on? And once I passed the biggest portions and all of it, then the pain, basically the contraction stopped. Just like when after you give birth, you're like, oh, okay,
right.
Yes. But I kept bleeding. I was still bleeding, and I ended up, my husband was out of town that night, so I was just there by myself. The kids were sleeping, our older kids, and I called my mother-in-law. They picked me up and took me to the hospital, because I was bleeding so much, and it just kept coming. And that was a big pivotal point in my life. At the time, I was working for a very high-profile government agency on a very big trial that was really impacting the entire world at that time. And it wasn't what I was passionate about. While I was really, doing work and on the inside of things, it wasn't where God wanted me to be. And for a long time, I said that I was going to go back into functional medicine because I had practiced it before, but I had been a single mom, and I was working. I was getting lots of good contracts. I was in high demand, and I just kept working and working. But having that miscarriage really caused me to pause. Yeah. And just really reevaluate things and, what was going on with my family, my time away. I used to travel every single week. I was on a plane all over the country, consulting. So I was doing a lot of work, and I loved what I did. I did love traveling and all of those things. And there was a certain balance that I had, because when I was gone for work. But then when I was home, I was good and I was able to be with my kids. But I wasn't doing the work for humanity that brought out the passions in me, and really felt like was my giftings and my things to give to the world. So I stopped. I'm the type of person, I give like a 6-week notice. Okay. I'm going to give you like a lot of notice that I'm leaving. I will make sure that, all paperwork's in order. Do you need me to train your next person? Like I'm going to train them. I'm going to get everything in place. And I literally was like, today's my last day. Wow. And it had to be like, it just, and I had a good reputation. So, the people that I work with, they understood, it wasn't, no one was like angry, but it was like, I'm done. Like I gotta stop this. So I took some time off, really took care of my body to heal from that, focused on my health. And then I was looking and I'm like, okay, all these other doctors are like working virtually now, and hired me a coach and then launched my business virtually. And I've been doing that ever since. So it has been a beautiful experience. When I launched this practice, it literally would have been the due date of that baby, because that baby the due date was right when, a couple years after I met my husband. Like the day that I met my husband, that was the due date for the baby. And then that's when I launched as well. So it's like God allowed me to give birth to something new, something different. I was pregnant with something so big and so wonderful that he wanted to bring out into the world through me doing this. But, it was just different, but all in his timing.
I love so much about your story and how much you've been through. It's really a story of resilience, and how you're able to overcome so much. Because there was, and something that we kind of bond on, we don't have to get into like really deep detail, is that your journey as a single mom. Now you have an amazing husband who, you're raising your 3 children together. But for a while there, it was you. Yeah. And you were making all things happen. And that is, like, I think why God brought us together is so that I can have hope that there is something, because I'm in that place now, raising my 2 girls on my own. And some days I just really like, God, what are we doing here? Because my parents have been together since they were 16, and they are still together, very much in love. And so I just never saw myself being a single mom. Yeah. But I know that this journey has to be for a reason, because I really do have a heart for single moms, especially those who are on their entrepreneurship journey. And so there's so many layers to your story. There's so many layers to who you are, and I want people listening to understand that you, no matter where you are right now, no matter what situation you are in right now, that is not what your future has to look like at all. And going back to those desires and God not teasing you, if you feel like, yes, I want the man of my dreams, and yes, I want the life of my dreams, and this is what it's going to look like, it will happen. It will happen. All in God's timing. It will come to pass. And in the meantime, in between time, if you are looking to get your health together, please call Dr. Alicia, because she is awesome and really a heart for people, not just for your profession, but for people.
Yeah.
And I love that you are always reminding me and other listeners, those who listen to your podcast, that it is not just being a doctor is about teaching. And so you are really educating people on how to take care of their bodies so they can show up and serve in the way that God wants them to. You're saying yes, and so they'll be able to say yes too.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. And I don't know, I mean, we're at the 50-minute mark now. I don't know if there's any any more nuggets that you want to leave with people. We'll definitely put all your information and how people can contact you down below. But if you could say one thing to them, what would it be?
Just one thing. I think that often as women, mothers, I think it's always important to remind and be reminded that you are more than enough. Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to remember when you're not where you want to be.
Yeah.
You're like, well, am I still good enough? You're good enough right now.
Yeah. And God is working out all things. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. All the things.
Yeah. All things. God is working out all things. All things for our good.
Yeah. Whew. I love it. This was so good.
Yes.
Good. I thank you so much for being here. I thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing wisdom. And maybe we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it again. This was fun.
I would love that.
Yeah. So thank you all. For anyone who's listening, make sure that you do all the things, like, share, subscribe. I know there's some nuggets in here that people in your life would love to hear. So share it with them. Don't be stingy. And we will catch you all in the next episode. Bye.